Today we are going to talk about using books as teaching tools. As we move through these 4 books, we are going to talk about various different skills that you can teach. So we'll talk about speech, language, sequencing, vocabulary concepts, and also some other skills including social language. So hopefully one of these topics fits with a child or a student in your life. So to start off, there are beautiful illustrations in so many picture books, and we have access to so many more books. They're not all created equally, and we want to make sure that we're selecting a high quality text, and that definition varies widely. I'm going to post in the comments below an excellent resource for high quality literature. Also in the comments below, I will provide some links for other high quality literature, such as the Caldecott winners. Each of these serves a different purpose for me as a teacher or speech therapist. So to start off, we're going to start with speech production. Now, any child that has a speech production disorder, one of the things that we want to ensure is that they have enough practice with a given target sound. So sometimes in speech, there'll be a few cards that they go through and they'll say the sound a few times. But in order to do motor learning, you have to repeat something over and over and over and over again, just like a sport. So think about the fine motor movements of keys on a piano or keys on a keyboard, and what your fingers have to do to activate the right keys. Your mouth and your speech and language production structures are as complex, if not more. So in order to practice that, we need to give repetitions without killing them with drill, because children are not going to stay engaged if you say, I want you to say this for me 5 times. Say the same word 5 times. So a good alternative to that would be using a text that naturally repeats a target sound. So Go Dog Go is a beautiful book to teach G sounds and D sounds. A lot of times children will flip-flop those 2 sounds. They'll replace D for G or G for D. So this gives them practice over and over and over throughout the text to produce those sounds without pulling out some articulation cards or having them repeat the same word over and over again in a more unnatural setting. So as we go through this text, you can see there's also concepts such as big and little. I love that this text focuses on a lot of opposites. You can bring that concept in. Again, big dogs, little dogs, black and white dogs. So they're practicing D and G over and over and over and over again. You can also add in more repetitions to talk about the dogs that you see, what the dogs are doing. This is a question that repeats. Do you like my hat? This is also a great book if you want to work on question words. Social language skills, goodbye, goodbye. Having a conversation. Little dog, big dog. So you see those repeating multiple times. Then they go into some colors. Again, big dog, little dog. So as I'm going through this book, I'm looking for words that are repeating. So the word dog obviously repeats, but you see big and little repeat frequently. Up and down. So there's a lot of spatial concepts here as well. Again, the same colors, red, blue, green, and yellow. Up and down. So they keep repeating these concepts. And go down, go down. Several times you see go. Go, dogs, go. So as I'm looking for the text, I'm looking for those repeating words. I'm looking for concepts that are either in the pictures or in the words. So it doesn't just have to be in the text. Do you see this happening? Because we want children to engage visually with the text. They also listen, but what do you see happening here? They're jumping out of the bed. So the concept of out, or they're getting up. He's getting up, he's getting up, he's not getting up. So there's lots of opportunities to practice those words, even if you completely covered up that text. Another example by the same author is Are You My Mother? Now this text I would not use for speech targets at all, but I would use it for language concepts or sequencing or question asking. So the book title itself is Are You My Mother? And the mother's sitting on the egg. The egg starts to jump around, so she flies away to get some food for the baby, and then the baby wakes up and can't find its mother. So as I'm looking through this text, one concept that goes throughout is where. Where is she? Where is she? He keeps looking for her. He keeps looking for her in different places. And then as he starts his search, he goes up to all of these different animals and says, Are you my mother? Over and over again. Where is she? Are you my mother? So again, looking for those phrases or sentences or words that you see over and over and over again in a text, that's a really good word to pull out or concept to pull out. Another thing that this book is great for is to work on the concept not. So she was not, the hen was not, the dog was not his mother. So kitten was not, hen was not, dog was not. And meeting the multiple animals. What I see happening a lot when I work with students or families is they focus on the nouns. So if they were to pick up a book, we do a lot of what's that? What's that? What's that? What's that? Where does it live? What sound does it make? But typically children are learning nouns very easily. What they're not learning are the concept words or things like question words or answering questions so that they can see these. These are really concrete. They can see that that's a dog. They can see that that's a bird. They can see what color it is. But something like, where is my mother? Where is his mother? Talking about where she is. Are you my mother? Working on those yes-no questions. Those are really important concepts that literature can teach that isn't always focused on. A lot of times we focus on the characters in the story, not as much as what the language is telling us. So in the end, he does find his mother, by the way. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this series. This one is If You Give a Cat a Cupcake, but there's a moose a muffin, there's pig a pancake, lots of different variations of this by Laura Numeroff. Amazing book. This is really great for chaining events. However, I want to warn you against something that I see happening a lot for some children. So if you give a cat a cupcake, it starts off, he gets his cupcake, and then he wants something else, and then he wants something else, and then he wants something else. So it just continues and continues and continues, and then finally circles back to wanting a cupcake again. But if you look at all of these pages, every event is so different, and there's so many things in the pictures that this can be overwhelming if you try and have children remember what happened first, what happened next, what happened last. That's a really difficult concept for memory and sequencing, but something like this text for problem solution or making predictions, that's amazing. So he spilled sprinkles on the floor. I wonder what he's going to do next. And then for some students, if you haven't taught, or some children you haven't taught this yet, you could say, I wonder if he's going to ask for a broom or if he's going to leave a mess on the floor. So instead of just asking the question, you're giving them two options to help model predicting and teach predicting. Sometimes kids won't need that. Sometimes they'll just automatically pop out with a good prediction or an off-the-wall prediction, but they understand the concept of prediction. But a lot of the times you say, okay, let's look at another one. Oh, well, that didn't fit at all. He spilled the sprinkles on the floor, and then they didn't even talk about the cleaning up. They went right to him in the bathing suit. So talking through changing predictions and things like that, because I would have imagined that you would have seen him asking for a mop or something, but they just jumped past the whole cleaning part completely. Again, he's going to go to the beach. At the beach, he might go for a swim, or he might get into more trouble. Which do you think would work? Or which do you think is going to happen? Oh, he went for a swim and he built a sandcastle. So this book works much better for something like inferencing or prediction than it would for a repeating word, because most of these words are completely different. Nothing really repeats except the cupcake in the beginning and then at the end, and the cat and the little girl. So taking a look at how is this story structured, what could I pull out of it to teach? Again, avoiding overloading with nouns. So something that's a low incidence noun like sandcastle or beach chair, that wouldn't be something that I would necessarily focus on. You can show it to them and you can talk through it, but to ask them to describe it or to put that as a target word for them, that wouldn't be one of my priorities. Now, something that I might add to this book is what will happen next? So that adding in that question could be something that would work well here. And then finally, one of my students introduced this book to me, and I absolutely love it. It's adorable. But this book has a lot of figurative language in it, and it has a lot of social skills in it. So something like this, you could also use for speech targets if you wanted to work on bagel, because that repeats over and over and over. So the B sound and the G sound and the L sound in love. Another word that repeats a lot is dancing. So if you want to work on some verbs, he's dancing and then he's looking for friends and then he's asking all of these baked goods to be in the dance contest with him and they keep saying no. So the social skills of asking someone a question, waiting for their answer, what do you do when they say no? And then there's the figurative language. The Pretzel, who was at the spa getting a salt rub. So why is that funny? Let's talk about why the author thought that was funny. Oh, pretzels have salt. So he's getting a salt rub. Do pretzels go to a spa? I don't think they do. So I think the author is trying to make a joke here. So using this to talk through author's purpose, to talk through the figurative language, cutting the mustard. I know someone who eats mustard with their pretzel. Does anyone like mustard with their pretzels? Okay, so they wanted to connect the pretzel with the mustard. So talking through those connections, we always have to make sure we're modeling and teaching those connections before we would just say, well, what does this mean? What does cut the mustard mean? Jumping right to that end question. Talking through it first and making sure that, because that's very abstract language there. What is the author trying to tell me? What are things that repeat often and over again, whether it be questions or phrases or single words or sounds and words? And then thinking about, okay, if I select this book for figurative language, what other things could I teach with it? I could teach about friendship. I could teach about being kind to others. I could teach about dancing. Or I could take the concept of baked goods and baking and expand it to that. And we could bake something and how are bagels made and how are cakes made and how are croissants made. So the possibilities with a text are endless. But hopefully this gives you an idea of what a certain book can help you teach. If there are additional books that you want me to take a look at and talk through, including books for older students like chapter books, or if you want some more examples of skills that you can teach with books, please leave a comment below and I am happy to do that. I love using literature to teach young and old, and I hope that this was helpful.